Welcome back to The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I wanted to send a welcome. I wanted to jump right into today's topic, which is lead by example, not by what you say. And what I mean by that is us as parents, and even if you don't have any children or if you're yet to become a parent, just being an adult figure, period, we must lead by example. Okay? So it's one thing to say, for example, we want our children to be scholars or we want them to be successful. We want to decrease the jail rate of our black men and women. We must lead by example. So, a person is naturally more inclined to believe what someone says and follow what someone says when they can see the evidence and facts of what that person says through that person's life. And I wanted to go over, to me, what it means to be a parent. Everyone has their own definition. You've got Webster's dictionary, but my definition to be a parent, it's to protect, provide, to educate, to pass on your inheritance. So whatever you've gained and accumulated in this world, once you pass away, to be able to pass on that to your children to give them a better life than what you had, or to keep the legacy going. It's to give them identity to who they are. And amongst our people, not all of them, so that's the small disclaimer, not every black person, but just amongst our people, though, it's too many not to count, that I've heard them say, oh, my children are going to grow up to do what they're going to do anyway. They're going to be what they're going to be anyway, so it is what it is. And then they may give an example as to say, I know a mother and father who were married and they were both, preachers, pastors, lawyers, or doctors, and their children end up, being on crack or meth, or ended up doing a jail sentence, a lifelong jail sentence. Or, yes, that is true. Because in life, there's no certain guarantees to the outcome of how your offspring is going to turn out. But as black people, we must stop using that probability as an excuse as to let our children raise themselves. And what I mean by that is there must be more structure. And how does that happen? Before we have children, or even while we do have children, we must better ourselves. So, for example, if we don't want our child out in the streets, we can't be out in the streets ourselves, partying and doing these things, especially on a consistent basis to where it's like every day. So that's what they see. Mom and dad going out on the streets. If you don't want your child to go out in the streets, how are you going to tell them not to do it and you do it? And that's all they see, because after all, kids mimic what is around them. If we want our child to, go to school and go to college, we need to have accumulated some type of college education ourselves. We need to graduate from high school ourselves. How can you tell your child and show them, it's not just about mouthpiece, saying things. You have to show them how to do it. You can't just say, go do it, and you've never done it yourself. You have to be able to guide them with your hand and with your way of parenting to get your child to go in a certain direction. And I find, especially with the younger generation, you know, because, especially, in our culture of people, we have a lot of us have children so young that, of course, when you're young, you want to party, you want to explore life. But right along with a lot of our young men and women exploring life and finding themselves, they're dragging their children right along with it. So whatever mistakes and mishaps that they're exposing themselves to, getting to learn themselves, in their teens and early 20s, they're exposing their children to that as well. So by the time their children are 10 and, 15 years old, they've already got a certain mindset that may be negative to them ever excelling in life. And there are, people who fail in all races of people. But, with us as black people, we can take a couple of notes from others. Sometimes we laugh, when, we hear other cultures of people come down on their children, and they may say something like, if you don't go to Harvard like my father or my grandfather, then I will, take you out of the inheritance. And the child might say, I want to go be a musician. I want to, I want to go do what I want to go do. I want to go paint. I don't want to go to doctorate school. I don't want to go to be an engineer. I don't want to do that. I want to go follow what I love to do. And that sounds great and everything, but, those parents, a lot of times, they tell those children, you are going to be what I want you to be. And I think, us as black people, we can take some of that and we can utilize that for our own children. Because I don't know about you as a parent, but I'm not feeding and clothing and sacrificing my time and life for a child that's not going to do what I tell them to do. And children have their own will and they have their own personalities, but it's time as black people we stop this saying of it's going to be what it's going to be. We're going to make it do what it do. No. When it comes to our children, no. You must set a standard and you must control to a great extent what they do until they get from under your roof. You can't let them do anything. You can't let them watch anything. You can't. And, I'm not going to say any names, but there was a famous female rapper that said, it was in the tabloids or whatever. She said, I don't let my daughter listen to my music. So everything about, the sexually explicit lyrics that I put out there, my daughter is going to be shielded from that. And I laughed. I'm like, how are they going to be shielded from your image that is in, a lot of people's homes, billboards, videos? She might not watch it in her house, or her daughter or a child might not, see those images in her house, but when her child goes to another friend's house, when they listen to music in other places, they're going to hear their parent promote those lyrics and those images. So it is obsolete and an oxymoron to say, I'm going to be a stripper, a prostitute, a drug dealer, whatever that you say that you don't want your child to become, but you're promoting these things. Us as black people, we've got to get some sense. We've got to do it quick. And it just doesn't make sense, and once again, just because, your parent does those certain things does not mean that you're going to come out like them. Because, us as, like I said, black people, we love to say, hey, just because, your parent engages in those certain activities, doesn't mean that your child can't come out, on top, successful. Yes, that's true. But we need to stop making those as excuses as people, because the percentage is too small, for your parent to live a certain life and your children to grow up successful. That's why our rates are diminishing in population, because we keep that mindset going. And it's that mindset that we keep going that will cause our numbers to decrease even more from 11.9%. 11.69% of our we are almost extinct. Don't you think it's time that we change some of the ways that we view ourselves and how we raise our children and what we let our children be exposed to? It hurts my heart to see little boys, dancing to the rap music. It really does, It hurts my heart to see little young black girls gyrating their bodies, but they don't know their English and math assignments. Same for the little boys. It's so sad, because number one, they shouldn't even be listening to that type of music or conducting themselves in that type of manner. Those are building block years, okay? And those are the most impressionable, mentally impressionable years of a child's life. And that's where the mental conditioning starts on our people, is when they're little. A lot of us think as black people, that's cute. Get it, get it, get it. Dance on the floor, hold that pose, gang sign pose. Your daddy did it. It's cute. That's our hood life. No, that's the life that they gave us. That's the identity that they gave us. We need to spend more time with our children, teaching them. And how are we going to do that? By teaching ourselves. We need to educate ourselves so that we can be somebody that our children can look up to. So that we're not just telling them to live a certain way, but we're not living it ourselves. Look, I love you. I love our people. I respect all cultures of people, but this is definitely dedicated to us as black people. Okay? If it can help someone else, that's a different culture, that's fine. But this is definitely dedicated to us as black people. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can at thetruthwithtrinity@gmail.com. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube, which is under my same name, The Truth with Trinity. Peace and blessings.